It's simple, really. Great stories with a good cup of tea. It's the Tea with Mike show. Hi guys, welcome to another episode of the Tea with Mike show. Always excited to hear someone else's story from around the world. And joining me today is someone that I've known for a little bit now, digitally through social media. So welcome to Tea with Mike, Dom.
Mike, it's an honor to be on here, man. Super pumped to be here, brother.
Yeah, me too, likewise. So let's start off nice and easy. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Bronx, New York, in Parkchester. I lived there with my parents until about 2007. As a kid, I went to school there as a kid, and I was always like a pretty nice kid. But being a nice kid in like an inner city kind of setting, things slowly kind of, even though I was always in a good, I was in a good home environment. The school system was kind of messed up, and I got picked on a lot of bullying, a lot of things that were a lot of the negative atmospheres of being in the city started to kind of creep into me. So we ended up moving to New Jersey, where I spent the next 12, 13 years of my life. So I went from 2007 to 2000. What year is it? 2021 right now. So 2019, and then 2019 I moved to San Diego, California, where I am right now.
Why do you think a little bit like in a nutshell? Why do you think you were bullied?
Um, um, I think I was just always kind of a nice kid overall. Kind of had like a good vibe. I really had nothing to. I didn't have really anything really like against anyone or any kind of real animosity. But and if you're in the inner city culture, it's one of those things where like you got to be a little tougher, you got to be a little more gruff. There's a lot of people who didn't have the same scenarios I was in, so there was definitely more time to. You have to prove more things when you feel like you don't have that much. And that was just a lot of culture growing up in the Bronx. It was just like a lot of that energy over there. So like a lot of fighting. A lot of uh, New York aggressiveness, which is cool, but when you're young and like in teenage years, very impressionable. There's a lot of room to be in a place where you're just like between the insecurities of like being a kid and like the toughness of being in that kind of scenario. I think it's like I was the easy target.
Gotcha. And so that aside, what were some of your kind of like favorite subjects in school?
Um, I kind of really hated school, to be honest, most of the time. Um, like I think it was kind of like maybe third grade. I like realized that school was bullshit, and I was like, I'm not paying attention to any of this shit anymore. Like I did it enough to get by, but I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna worry about this. Listening to us being big Gary Vee fans and Gary Vee talking about his story, and he talked about how he woke up one day and decided to punt school. I went through. I think third grade was the moment when I was like, oh yeah, fuck this shit. This is not really that important. If I had to pick something that I think I was interested in, I mean, I like gym. But I guess that makes sense why I ended up going into the fitness field. Um, I really I can't say I really had a subject that I really liked at that point in life. As I got older, I liked more things. But as far as like in that age group, I don't think I liked anything about school. But I did learn a lot of people skills back then. So, making friends, understanding people, basically like human communication stuff that I still use a lot now that I really realized and kind of fine tuned at that age that I brought out. So I don't have a particular subject, but as far as like the human stuff that I learned at that age, I think it really carried over to even till now.
Interesting, yes, because yes, that's a lot of people skills, communication. You talk about culture and diversity, right? All of those types of things.
hmm
Awesome. So, do you remember much about like obviously, so after a little bit of a rocky start through kind of no fault of your own, but do you remember what it was like, kind of moving as a teenager to New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
and what did that kind of teach you about yourself? Because it's almost like it's hitting the reset button.
It was a very big reset, man. That was probably one of the first like big culture shocks I ever had in my entire life. Growing up, where I did in the Bronx, it was a lot more Hispanic people and Black people, and there wasn't too many like Caucasian people around. Like there wasn't that many white people around me over there, and the culture's different. Like one of the things that like the shoes you wear is super important in the like the urban hip hop culture. How you dressed, having your demeanor. There's just certain things that I was trained to think were very important in growing up in the city. But then once I moved to South Jersey and Cherry Hill, and I was in the suburbs, so like I was in basically white picket fence land over there. And like I remember when I was little, like what my first day of school, I left in seventh grade and I got there in eighth grade. So my first day of eighth grade, I was there and it was just like complete culture shock, man. Like everything that I thought was important from my first couple years of life wasn't important. Like the amount of people that I was used to being around, like it was a lot more white people then. Like it was just so many different things that were just such things that I really like thought were just facts and facts of life. Like has to be this way. And basically everything I knew was like it's not even true. And that was one of the biggest moments of me realizing that like the rules are not as set in stone as you think. But it's not until you go somewhere else you realize that like, oh, I don't have to be
Mhm.
like this, or you don't have to do this. What people value is different in different places. So even though if you may not have the value of something, something that like you value in one place may not be valued the same way somewhere else. And that really taught me that, which is just like enormous.
Yeah, no, man. I'm just thinking back to my own story and my journey, and like moving from England to Canada. It's like the same sort of thing. The things that they value, and I guess yeah. So we'll leave it at that, so we don't go down a rabbit hole. But it's like completely different. But at the same time, you have to learn to just be yourself and not try and fit into the system and just be you, even if it feels like a little unnatural, like in the moment, because often the biggest change happens when we're younger with less life experience. So it's harder to know what to do next, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely, man. Like the paradigm shift of like who you are and what can change so much, especially at that age too. Like I was like what 12 or 13, so yeah, that's a big change at that time in life.
Right. So obviously, a few moments ago, you talked about like, well, school wasn't for you, but if you were picking a favorite class, then gym and kind of fitness was that particular class. So talk to us a little bit on from that perspective. What role did I guess personal fitness play for you, like growing up?
So me as a like to go back to bring everything full circle. Me as like a younger kid, I was kind of like a gamer. So like I played a lot of Pokemon, like a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff. Like I was like more of a gamer kid. But being picked on and having to move was one of those things that kind of changed me. So when I got into high school, they had like a weight room over there, and the weight room was inside the school, and I really wanted to learn how to work out because I was like, if I'm buff, I'm strong, like they can't beat me up now, like I'll be bigger, stronger, faster, better, and all those things. But then I learned that you couldn't be at one point you couldn't get access into being you couldn't work out in the gym unless you played a sport or took weight room, and you couldn't take weight room until your junior and senior year.
Right.
So, one of my good friends at the time was like, "Oh, you should join the football team. Like, we'll join the football team together." And at that point, I never played any organized sports, so like, I was kind of just like, a 5-year-old with a 13-year-old's body, so I didn't have any real coordination or anything. I was like a big. They used to call me Gumby, so just to give you like the idea of who I was seen as. So I joined my high school football team uh, my freshman year, and I met a lot of friends that like I still have now. I made a lot of connections, and that was like the first time because I that being part of the team allowed me to really train myself physically, and it gave me the access to the weight room, so I learned how to lift weights there. And most of like the biggest things that, besides the things I actually learned for exercising for myself, the the confidence I got from training and like the process of growing and adapting from the things that I've learned through exercise are the things that carry me now. Like one of the biggest reasons that I even became a personal trainer was because I wanted to give people the same feeling of confidence that I got out of fitness, because it just took me up to new heights. Like it literally helped. It really literally changed my brain as a human being.
Oh, interesting. So it kind of shifted like your whole mindset, just like that experience of being on the football team.
Yeah, yeah. It completely changed how like how I felt about myself. I was like, yeah, I'm a strong guy now. Like, I can do this. It probably made me a little bit too much in the other direction. I was like, yeah, like I'm the shit. But it definitely helped me change. It helped me change a lot of things that like I just feeling like I was too small and like impressionable and like people could hurt me. But it gave me that extra level of confidence that I carry on to this day.
So, in what position did you play on the football team?
I was a tight end. Um, but I wasn't really like I was god awful. Like I was terrible. 'Cause it was my first time playing the sport. So, if you look at my physique now and like see me in the gym, it's like, oh man, like he's the fit guy, like he's the one. But I didn't really practice enough to be that position that I needed to be. I got better in confidence wise, but I didn't get better in like practice wise. So my skill wasn't as good. So fun fact about Dom, just for anybody watching this, just for you, Mike.
Oh, thanks, man.
For anybody who doesn't know me, as far as me like in the gym or doing workout stuff, it's great. But the second you put a ball in my hand, a football, soccer ball, the coordination skills look like a total like I'm back to being Gumby again, basically. So I look good. I look good. And I can lift things. I can pick things up. But as far as like the actual skills, not anything you be impressed by.
Wow. I would totally have I would have never gone down that path at all if you hadn't told me. So that's fascinating. Yeah, yeah, interesting. Nice, man. So basically, like when you were growing up to stay fit, it was mainly you were using the football team as a tool to gain access to the weight room, but also outside of that, some great things came out of it, like in terms of like self-confidence and making new friends. Some of those that you said you're still friends with today, correct?
Yes, yes, yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like a lot of self confidence, a lot of self building, and yes, a lot of my friends that I'm friends with now are friends I with on the team. Um, like one of my best friends who I actually have a show with now on my podcast. He played on the football team too.
Oh,
So
did
like,
it? Okay,
yeah,
so I've seen him on your Instagram page, so
yeah,
that's cool to make that like connection.
yeah. So like and that's actually how we became friends too. So me and him met through our other friend Hashland, and he kind of like introduced us to each other. And I didn't like I didn't even like him at first either. It's just the funny thing. I was telling this to one of my other friends earlier that like yeah, like he's like one of my best friend brothers right now, but I didn't like him when I first met him. I think it was just this. He was a new kid, so I was in there from freshman year to senior year. He came in my sophomore year, so he was like the new kid of the day sophomore year, and I didn't have a reason to not like him. I just didn't like him because he was new. I was like, yeah, like forget this new kid. Like, who does he think he is? Typical high school stuff. You think this is my turf, this is my land. But
That's interesting because you were once the new kid too, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know why like rules just flipped up all of a sudden. But that
Mm.
I get, like I said, that age, like you're just like, oh, forget everyone
Yeah,
because
for
I'm
sure.
But yeah, so I didn't like him, and then one point our mutual friend Hashland, he plays a lot of roles in a lot of things that I've done. Um, him and Ozzy were friends, and then me and I was already friends with Hash, and then me, Hash, and Ozzy started hanging out, and then like it kind of just compounded more and more from there. But like that's my brother. Ozzy's like my brother now. They're both my brothers, but it's funny how like I didn't like someone who like I'm around so much now.
But what I find really like amazing is how like your friends like all these like years later, because if you I don't have any hard facts, but if you think of the odds, like even people that were really close to played on sporting teams, as soon as they go off to university or they leave school, like the majority of them never talked to each other again. Yet they were best mates through the highs and lows of like different sporting activities or whatever that may be, right? So that's really cool.
That is very true. Because a lot of people that are on the same team that I haven't talked to and don't ever really plan on talking to again. So I agree.
Awesome. So, what inspired you to study for the NASM personal training certification?
So after high school, after graduating, I commuted for college. So I went to a local school college around me, Camden County College, and over there, I don't really know what I wanted to study at the moment. I wanted to study business because I figured whatever you do was going to involve business, and I wanted to have my own business. Um, then I ended up studying marketing, but during that time, I was trying to keep myself in shape because like I didn't have access to a gym anymore because I didn't go to school. Um, and I didn't have a car yet either, so I didn't always have a way to get to a gym to pay for without, I didn't want to pay for a gym and not be able to go. So I saw a video of one of my other really good friends, and he was doing some calisthenic exercises. He was doing this move called a back lever. It's basically like you hold yourself up on a pull-up bar basically, and you're parallel to the ground, so like your head and your feet are like a straight line, like you're almost like laying down, but you're holding yourself up on a bar. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like I want to know how to do that. So I hit him up. I was like, yo, man, you gotta show me how to do that. And he and I ended up, he ended up showing me how to work out like with calisthenics and basic exercises you can do like with just your body weight. So me and him would work out at the park together, and we would work out at the park together all the time, like just hours and hours throughout the day. So he showed me how to do pull-ups, muscle-ups, all types of great exercise you can do just with your body weight. And so it was cool because I can just use places around me that didn't involve, um,
Mm.
I didn't have to find a gym to go train, but I could still train. And then it was free because it was at a local park. And from there, him and I started our own little fitness group called Free Body Fitness. It was like a community outreach program that we did, inviting people to come work out with us. So people would come work out with us at like the local park, and we would just train and do all types of cool fitness things, like group workout, all for free, just like us exuding all the love that we have for fitness and giving it to other people. But being in that position, people then started asking me like, oh, how do I do this? Like fitness questions started coming my way. And I wasn't really versed enough in what fitness actually, like I didn't know the actual stuff. I didn't know the terminology. I didn't know this. I didn't know why protein was important. I didn't know why you grew this way. The things that I just didn't know. So I decided to become a personal trainer, and I went down to the National Academy of Sports Medicine, applied for their certification, took the test, passed the test, became a personal trainer.
That's awesome, man. So we'll just have a little pause for tea fact. Like, what are you drinking in that mug?
I'm actually drinking some Wise Ape tea. I figured for the Tea with Mike show, I had to have my tea with me. I usually do drink this tea when I record as well. It's one of my favorite teas. Chocolate House is the flavor that I'm drinking. It's my go-to when I podcast. I have a cool story about that too, but we'll save that for another time.
No, you can tell the story. Go for it, man.
Okay, well, um, so the Wise Ape tea, well, actually kind of fits into the storyline actually at the same time. So throughout my personal training career, I had one mentor, my first fitness mentor I worked with for him, like starting up his own gym. And then my second gym mentor was actually in a commercial gym. So it was at this place called Club Metro in New Jersey. It didn't survive with all the things closing throughout the pandemic and stuff. So it's no longer a place, but it was like the first like big gym club that I worked at with members and stuff. And I was over there learning how to be a personal trainer. And it was at that point I also started learning how to I started like my content journey started as well. I think this was like 2015, either 2015 or 2016. And Snapchat was the top app at the moment. So I was on Snapchat a lot, and I started putting out Snapchat content. I had this little series called Punch Monday in the Mouth. It was like Monday motivation. I
Oh,
would like
nice.
punch my camera. Yeah, it was a whole thing. And on there, I was trying to figure out how to grow more on Snapchat. So I was always looking up like, all right, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I found this thing called Ghost Codes. It was like a back then you couldn't when Snapchat first came out, you couldn't find other Snapchat accounts. They didn't have like a way to interconnect your phone or anything. So just like your Snapchat, unless you knew someone and like added them, that's the only way you could add someone new. And Ghost Code's like an app where you can like put in other people's codes, whether it's fitness or it's whatever thing you were in, you could put out a Snapchat account. You can put your Snapchat on that list and meet people with their same network, so you can network on Snapchat. And I was following entrepreneurship, and I met this dude on there named Joe Scola, um, and he actually was the founder of this company, Wise Ape Tea. And me and him like connected a couple of times. We talked a little bit, and it was crazy because we met on Ghost Codes, and we both knew we lived in New Jersey. So I was like, all right, cool. We're both Jersey boys. Like, that's awesome. But then I put up a video of me doing something in the gym, and he was like, he hit me up one day on Snapchat. He was like, yo, like, do you live in Marlton? And I was like, I live in Cherry Hill and Marlton right next to each other. But he's like, that's Club Metro. He's like, I go there too. I was like, no
No
way.
way.
So me and him both met on like the internet, but we lived like 10 minutes from each other. So he and I met. He said he was like he started his tea company, and we just talked about a lot of entrepreneurship. We talked about Gary Vee. We talked about there's a lot of things we just connected on a lot of levels because like we're both trying to grow our accounts. He's trying to grow his tea company. I'm trying to grow my fitness brand, and we ended up like collabing and interacting a lot. Um, and then he gave me some promotions of his tea, and I'm like, oh, cool. At the moment, I didn't even like tea. Like I didn't really have I didn't have a reason to drink it. I didn't think like there was never an issue with tea. It's just that like I never had a reason to sit down and drink some tea. It just never was. It wasn't a habit that I really had. So I drank it and like I had some. I was like, all right, cool. But I supported it because I supported him because like he was just a cool dude that I really vibed with. And as I ventured, we kept we're still very cool now. I talked to him today too. But as I did more venturing and as I got into podcasting, I found that I need something to drink while I was recording or before I record so my vocal cord sounds better. So now I have like a place for me to drink tea. So like it just kind of worked out that like I ended up like growing into someone that actually would use the product that he had. So Wise Ape Tea, I always shout him out. They're my favorite tea, and chocolate is my favorite flavor by far. But it's a great company, and he's a great guy.
That's cool, man. I'm totally gonna look that up later. So the tea fact for the episode is before the 8th century BC, tea in China was primarily used as a medicine. Ancient Chinese people often boiled fresh tea leaves and drank the infusion. They believed that tea reduced heat and improved eyesight. And that's from chinahighlights.com/travel guide.
Wow, that's
Always
great.
fascinating what you can learn about the world of tea.
That is awesome. Wow. I guess is that why they always say it doesn't matter what the price of tea in China is? I feel like I've heard that expression a lot, but I never knew why they picked China. But that's cool.
What kind of advice or messages, depending on how you see the question, would you give anyone who's just like, oh yeah, sure, like my favorite. Oh, let's take it. Let's go really meta to the beginning. So like, let's just say they graduated high school. They played sports. They love working out. Like maybe they found no other interests in high school. So maybe kind of similar to your journey and story. Like, what advice would you give someone who's maybe thinking about becoming a personal trainer?
That's a good question. If you want to get into personal training, I definitely would recommend definitely like if you want to do it, definitely do it. But you have to understand the biggest thing that I feel like a lot of personal trainers forget, and I think the way it's perceived on Instagram a lot kind of shows off too, that if you are fit and healthy, that's not like just it. You know, the fitness goals that you achieve for yourself are not the same as what you achieve for your clients. So just because you look good just because you look good or someone thinks you look good doesn't mean you're a good trainer. And just because you have good fitness systems doesn't mean you know what to do for someone else. There's a lot of process of understanding of empathy of the other person that you really got to focus on. So you have to put as much energy you put into keeping yourself in shape, working out, pushing your boundaries, you have to put that same level of energy into understanding the person that you're trying to train and figure out what things they need, what communication style works well with them. You really have to look each person you train will be different. So, someone might need a little bit more happiness and pep. So like, hey, you can do this because they might have lower self-esteem. Like, I believe you can do this. You may have to just, pep them up a little bit more for them to do something. Someone else, you might have to be a little more aggressive. Like, hey, like, shut up, shut the fuck down, do your squats, blah, 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 because that just works for them.
Right.
Each person's going to work differently. So you got to bring value directly to that person the best way that you can. So don't focusing on your health, your fitness is important for, practicing what you preach, but focusing on your client and what they need in their life is the most important thing.
Great answer, man. So obviously, you went to you studied for a degree in marketing. So how has your, I guess, personal experience, both in terms of your formal education and then also and so how has that experience like translated into obviously being a personal fitness coach and then also a podcast host?
That's a good question because they really do all kind of end up tying together. As far as like what I learned in particular from my college, I don't think I really learned anything that much that I really can say like this one thing taught me a lot. Maybe one of my things about as far as my marketing degree, nothing in particular in any of the marketing courses that I've taken really gave me anything to really think about it. But as far as like all three of them working together, being in marketing, personal training, and podcasting, I think that same philosophy of like understanding people and understanding what they need is still really important, because to understand what your client really needs, you have to really kind of understand who they are psychologically. And to interview someone on a podcast, you have to understand what they're thinking about psychologically and, building relationships and then understanding just how to connect to people on a level that like really makes them feel comfortable with you. And that kind of works in marketing as well, because when you're trying to market something, you really have to understand the person that you're trying to talk to and get into their psychology. So the entire cycle of like empathy of what that person needs, going through it over and over and over again, I think works for all three of the things that I've been through and gone through. I think that's like the biggest thing, understanding people and what makes them want to do things, and then understanding people and finding a way to help them. Actually, I think about it. Funny, I think there's one funny thing. So in high school, there was one class I was like, oh, this class is amazing, and it was psychology. I took psychology my senior year of high school, and that was the first time I was like, wow, this class is amazing. Like, I love this class. This is the best feeling ever. But I was also on my senior year, like, fuck school, fuck all this shit. I'm about to be done. Forget it. So just to show the difference between what school does and what the school system can do versus like what you get out of it. So I found out that I didn't need that class to pass. So I showed up to the class all the time, but I didn't do any of the work. So I ended up getting like a 52 for the class for the end of the year. But a lot of things that I learned in that class, I still do now. Like, for instance, one of the things that we did, that we tracked how many hours we need to sleep at night to see how we functioned. And I found out I needed about 9 hours of sleep. And I still track how many hours I sleep now, just to like have an idea of where I am and where I function. So like that was something that was super simple and super practical that like I took out of that class. And some of the things I do now to kind of assess where my clients are mentally, a lot of psychology stuff too. So a lot of things that I took out the class, I still use now and like put it in, but my result in the actual classroom itself was complete shit. So it's just funny that you could be. I learned everything and practicing it, but my grade in the class doesn't show it at all.
That's super fascinating, and obviously that like that's a whole conversation for another time in itself, right? But so obviously we're living in a global pandemic, which no matter where you are in the majority of the world has restricted access to the gyms, at least temporarily, at different times. So how have you adapted your fitness training programs to overcome those restrictions and to keep making money and to keep your clients like coming back where possible?
So I had to switch to a lot more. So the gym I worked at was they closed because of the pandemic, and they ended up shutting down for good. So like they just completely closed the
Right.
whole facility. So I ended up training a lot of my clients either outside because I live in California, so there never was a winter really. So we kind of just trained outside in the meantime.
That's lucky.
Yeah, I was definitely lucky. So I still train a lot of people outside, and then I was training other people online. So I had some people that I trained back in Jersey that like, oh, I want to get back in shape again because of the pandemic. And I was like, all right, cool. So they came right to me. So I ended up training them online like throughout the rest of the pandemic as well. So it was a good opportunity for me to grow as a person and as a business person because I had new demands to fill and I had to figure out how to fill them. And it really helped me sharpen a lot of my skills from things I was doing, trying to figure out how to get the same effect of what I do in person, but not have to do it either digitally or do it outside without having the main equipment that I had before.
Interesting. And so which do you prefer? Do you like the online training or like training outside in person?
Um, I like them both.
Okay.
Currently though, I think I like the online more now for the current stage that I'm in though.
Okay. Can you explain a little further?
Sure. I just think the time wise for what I can train online with, so I don't have to leave my house, I don't have to go anywhere, I don't have to spend any gas. Just like it's just more effective for me to train someone through online. And yeah, I think I like online better, but I do kind of miss the in person like connection. But at
Hmm.
the same time, like it's just more efficient doing it online.
You've got the business side like kicking in, so well it's more efficient, but then you've also got like I guess that people and the feelings and the human nature side too, right?
Yeah.
How has your kind of marketing experience helped you survive through the ongoing global pandemic? Because like you said, you've had to pivot, right? Like the place where you were doing it in terms of location no longer exists. So obviously you would have had to have adapted pretty quick, right? Because one's got to pay rent and one's got to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so, whatever what because I think the blessing of one of the things I've been doing as far as putting out content overall was that I already had an established network of people that kind of already knew me and are thinking of me because they're seeing me every day through content. So a lot of people that I was training with before or training with currently, just that people are used to seeing me more often that were already inside of my circle and my base. So they're thinking of like if they associate Dom with fitness and then oh like I need to get back fit again. Oh look, here's Dom on my page. They just have more. They're more inclined to think about me. So just the fact that I was putting out content overall kept me in a great place business wise at that time. Especially with the online business coming in more. The the next thing as far as like growing, that's something I'm still kind of working on right now. Like I'm working on a lot more content, a lot more content specifically made for certain people with certain goals. So, you know, if you want to lose weight and you're 40 and you want to lose weight when you're 25, it's a little different conversation. And so I'm working on as far as like understanding the psychological like thought process and brain frame of mind of people in different settings. That's what I'm going into now. So I've done enough of just like little stuff to kind of like, all right, I've helped out people here, here, and here. And I'm looking into things that I've done that's worked, but now it's like to go into that wormhole a little deeper and find out next level of information that I can use to help more people with what I'm trying to do.
Oh, okay. With the goal of making a bigger impact.
Yes. Yes.
Obviously, so far we can see how everything sort of interconnects and is basically one big cycle, no matter what. like what example we throw up, it also like as you talk about it, it weaves back into itself. So why did you decide to start your podcast, The Dom Jackson Experience?
Yeah, so I started my podcast in 2018. I started just as the podcast itself was just going to be it's going to be a fitness podcast. It was called The Fitness Fundamentals, here to take the fear out of fitness. So that's what the whole like slogan behind it was. And I wanted to have like a show to promote my business. So like if you listen to Fitness Fundamentals podcast, you associate Dom, I get more clients. It's a win-win. So you get fitness information. I have a chance to get some more people to train with me, and then from there, kind of grow up from there. But at the same time, like I kind of got sick of talking about fitness. I might have gotten like 20 episodes in, and I was like, I just couldn't talk about squats anymore, or push-ups, or it just became like mundane. I lost the fun in it, and it also gave me idea. I was like, you know what? A lot of people have told me from like a young age, like, oh man, like your voice is so good, you should be in radio.
I just told you that before
You-
before we started chatting today.
You
See,
did.
yeah.
Listen, I was like, you said, I was like, no, I appreciate that, because that just reinforces more and more of what I thought people were gonna say, of what people have said, because like I'm on the right path, and so I was like, oh, so being in a podcast just made more sense. So a podcast about fitness was like the first segue in, but then like if I just made my podcast about something else, I already would still fit the thing that like I'm trying to get into, and use the fitness thing as like the first level of it. So I changed it into the Dom Jackson Experience, and from there I just started doing. I I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And I just said I was going to interview people that I meet and I know, that kind of just started storytelling. So like similar to you in the sense that like, it's just storytelling with people that you've met and talked with. And right now, that's kind of still where I am right now as far as in my journey. The first episode I actually ended up doing of the Dom Jackson Experience, I interviewed Ozzy, who I ended up having a podcast with later now. And I think I really like that story, because one of the biggest things that I try to help people with, or like encourage people with how I am as a person, is that like you're not always going to figure it out, but if you can just do something and see where that takes you, you might learn something else. So, doing that first episode of me just going, all right, I'm not fitness anymore, I'm just going to talk to my friends. I talked to Ozzy. Okay, that felt good. It was funny. We had a lot of good chemistry on this show. Cool. I keep going on to someone else. I do another 10 or some episodes. Then I think back and I'm like, oh, that Ozzy episode was pretty good. What if me and Ozzy had a podcast together? And then that gave birth to my second show. So the Dom Jackson Experience now is more like a series. It has a bunch of different shows on it. So the first show on it is, I call it The Journey. So it's the journey of me, finding what I'm doing, and it's the journey of me talking to people that I've met and interacted with in my life. So it's just a constant flow of just new stories of people that I meet along the journey of life. And then the other show is Do Something's in the Power with me and Ozzy, and we're just good friends talking shit and having a good time.
That's totally cool, man. It's a great balance between giving a lot of value, but then also consolidating friendships, and also living life, which I think people like seem to overlook a little bit at times these days.
I agree. They definitely overlook it a lot, because there's so much love in the journey that you just don't realize until you look back at it.
Totally. So like similar to you for the Tea with Mike show. Like, I don't know, the first 10 to 20, well, for maybe the first 10 to 15 episodes, were just people that I knew in real life, and that I started meeting some people like digitally, and it's just this big cycle, and then one thing leads to the next. And probably the best thing you can do is just to keep doing it like daily, weekly, and monthly, and not try to overthink it. I think if you keep it simple, I think, and if you stick at it, because I read stats all the time of like X amount of percentage of podcasts don't make it like past episode like 10 to 15 or something ridiculous, because they don't get any traction, which most of them are never going to unless you're somebody big already, right? So yeah, I just think it's interesting, the whole consistency, patience concept, that type of thing. But and then also what it can lead into if you just have fun at the end of the day and not try and overcomplicate it.
I agree, man. I agree. That's a good stack because a lot of people, I know some people that started podcasts and they've already started and fell off. So, it's interesting that without having that right amount of patience to know, it's going to take some time, but you'll get there when you get there. And I think fitness taught me a lot of that too. So having that same consistency and that grinding mentality.
So, what are some of the new skills that you've kind of learned as you've been developing these different podcasts? Apart from having more tea in your life, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, more tea is always a good move. I'm learning. I learned how to edit videos, so I'm learned how to chop up the footage because I was like, my show's not going to grow if people don't know about it, and I didn't get people to listen to the audio by itself, so I had to chop up the audio to make record it, top of the video to give the micro content for it. So video editing is one thing I definitely worked on. Then audio editing, so like now I'm learning how to mix and master sounds. This is my next venture that I'm in. Planning as far as okay, this episode, this person, this time, what we're going to talk about, kind of assessing a general idea of it. So a lot of communication skills, a lot of just self reflection too, how do I want to be perceived, what things am I trying to give, how do I bring value to people in this way, and questioning, man. The way I think about questions now are just so much more powerful than I did before. I didn't think.
Agree with you 100%. Yeah, yes.
I remember when we did our live stream, I was like, yeah, Mike gets it. Game recognizes game. Like a podcaster recognizes a podcaster because your question game every time, Mike's spot on. It's only going to get better from here. So
yeah, no, at the beginning, this is going back to that learning process and just ongoing, just the ongoing learning process at the beginning. I was trying to ask really long-winded questions, but now I'm trying to keep the shorter the tighter that you can give them with enough broader framework, and the better it's going to go. But it's a developed skill. It's not the majority of people, unless you happen to possess some natural talent. It's not. It's just if you look at Joe Rogan in episode 1 or Gary Vee or anyone, they only get better over time.
You really only do, and we're still so early in our game. You said this episode 1 something.
This is episode 116.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And then 216, 316. We'll see where everything ends up going, man. So it's a great journey and great process to watch grow, and I'm glad to be a part of this show, man.
52 episodes for every year of my life. Wow, that would be. We'll see, but you're right. We'll see what it develops into. That's true. Mm-hmm. It sounds like you're a very busy person, and you were a few moments ago, because obviously I know you're a little bit outside of the show. You were sort of hinting at some things that you potentially got coming up. But what do you do to look after your mental and physical health on a daily basis?
So the first thing I do every single day, I actually started doing this in 2020. I am a huge advocate for meditation. I really, really try to endorse it as much as possible. Before everything even got crazy in 2020, I heard some people talk about meditation. Ray Dalio, the hedge fund investor, founder of Bridgewater Associates, and J. Cole, the rapper from North Carolina. And those two people are two very different people as far as the spectrum of life. But they both were talking about meditation. They both say a decent amount of time they said it enough. And I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. So last year, February 2020, I said, you know what? I'm just going to try meditating for a full month, 28 days to see how I like it and see how to do it. And I just sat down, focused on my breath for 10 minutes, first thing every morning. And I did it every single day. Within the first 2 weeks, I really felt the difference of it. I think the best thing that I can talk about with it is, for someone who doesn't do it, a lot of times in life, we just do things. We don't even know we do them. You bite your nails, you eat a bag of chips, you lose something. And it's because we're just moving on autopilot. Our body just me, we're just we're just moving around. And what meditation gave me and it's giving me is it's like you get like a little like a hey, like what are you doing? You know, it snaps you out of like your robot mode more often, and it just made me more mindful. So within 2 weeks of just doing 10 minutes a day, no headspace, no music, nothing, just like me focusing on my breath and just saying I'm here and I'm here right now, and it trained my brain to realize, oh, you don't have to just be like you're not just moving right now. You're here doing this with a purpose, and it's really helped me find a lot of things about myself, like why am I thinking like this? Why am I eating this? What am I doing right now? Why am I scrolling on my phone? You know, it's like having like another like a manager or like a friend that's like, hey, like what the fuck are you doing, bro? And I've done it every single day since that day, and I plan to do it every single day forever. And I've done different versions, different levels. Like now I've done it like I did it for an hour today, but like it just depends on what things I'm working on. But that is something that is one of the after work. I actually put meditation before working out, but I just did it after getting into fitness. But what that has done for me as a person, I love to give to everyone else out there. Um, that is like one of my biggest daily health things. Whatever way you got to do it, find a way to do it because the results are just amazing.
I love it, man. And and that's so interesting because you're not the first person to bring up the importance of meditation on the Tea with Mike show. So the more times I've heard it, I'm almost like inclined to try it just because I've heard it from a bit like you were comparing the rapper and the other person, the hedge fund manager from two different walks of life, like all the people that have recommended meditation, like from three different walks of life, and they do like completely different things. So that's just re-emphasizing the importance of meditation. All right, as we kind of come towards the end today, like what's going on like for you the rest of this year and moving forward? What are you kind of working on, like in terms of goals, vision, all of that type of thing?
So one of my so still the growth of my personal brand and podcasting. Um, I'm trying to work on growing my shows, find new ways to meet new people, kind of figure out what's the message I'm trying to convey, the best way to the people, how do I bring the most value to people in the world. Still training people. I really enjoy training people, but one of my goals is to get out of training as well, just because there's a certain level of lack of control that you have with having to train other. You have to base your training off their schedule, and it's great for people and the relationships and stuff. But as I want to go into bigger things, it won't be the same use of my time that I want to have. So I recently also became a notary public for the state of California. So basically, the summary of what I do is that you basically get certified by the state to be a person that a person that like legitimizes documents. So when somebody needs something signed, they can get a notary to verify that like this person signed this thing. So I check people's IDs and make sure they are who they are, and I give it a stamp of approval to show that like, oh, this person actually signed it. So when they go to court or something, you can't say that I didn't sign it because this notary, this what I am said you signed this and checked your ID and did it. And with that, like I have a new business that I'm working on now to grow that, to do that into some real estate things. So I'm really excited to work on that. I was planning that before my call with my family. So I'm in a good place, and I'm excited to take that venture in with everything else that I'm doing.
Also, man, is there a reason why you started the new adventure? Is it to gain more time back and be a little bit more in control of your schedule? Like where we at with that?
Yes, it's I want to my friend told me about like told me about it in towards the end of 2020, and there's a lot of like money opportunities you can get in it, because the path I'm going to take in it is basically like it's like a loan signing agent. So basically what you're going to be doing is that I'll be notarizing documents of people that are buying houses or selling houses or getting loans or getting mortgages. And basically a company hires you, or you do it. You basically get paid to legitimize the document for a company of like a real estate document being sold. So I want to get into it, one, because there's a lot of just networking and skills that are going to come from doing that by itself, and there's a lot more. The financial upside of it is good because I'm already part of a package. So like if a house is being sold or being bought,
Right.
like it's not money that I have to act like a regular. With the pandemic, people didn't have as much money as they did before. So
No.
me learning how to be in this field is a field that's already going to have money going through it. They already bought a house already. I'm just part of the process of it.
Right.
So going more a B2B route versus a B2C route in a sense is a new venture that I want to try out. And I think it's going to have a lot of good skills in it. And I'm excited to do it.
Also, man, I'm sure I'm gonna see it develop in front of my eyes, man. Yeah. Well, thanks for being on the Tea with Mike show today, man.
Mike, it's an honor, man. I love to be on, man. And I love seeing what you're doing, man. Like I think we've connected through Twitter, and I just seen you grow and go through the process. And I'm honored to finally be on the show.
Yes, we finally made it happen. So, all right, guys, this was another episode of the Tea with Mike show with Dom Jackson. I really hope you took a lesson or something new that you can apply to your own life from this conversation. And if that applies to you, then we'd love to hear about it in the comments below. And so, thanks again, Dom, and stay safe out there, and good luck with everything that you're doing.
You too, Mike. Take care.
See ya. It's the Tea with Mike show.